So my next topic is going to be on Netflix. Two things happened this week that I think are, super interesting. One is that they just announced that they're going to have a TikTok-like app that's going to, be sharing vertical style videos. As a discovery feed for its mobile app, which if you pay attention to TikTok and Twitter and all, like you have all the Netflix, accounts and lots of like fans dropping, fan cams, like short clips from the shows, movies, video podcasts that, we've started, seeing on the platform from like The Ringer and Barstool. So they just have a lot more content that people watch short clips of, right? Like we talked last week about the clipping economy and how just clips in general are where people are getting most of their news, most of their like pop cultural references, how they're learning about new content and new shows. So it makes total sense to me that Netflix would, try to do this on their own since they're already creating the content anyway. A couple of things that I think are like super interesting will be if they start trying to hire like fans who, build out those fan
They
cams.
should. They
They
better.
should. They better, right? Because like HBO has done that for ones that have created like heated rivalry, fan cams and trailers. So there's a lot of fans that are like really at the edge of like creating all this type of content. And I mean on my end, like I've seen so many more like summaries of shows that I'll probably never watch, right?
Mhm.
Like I feel like Netflix is particularly designed for just getting summary clips, like,
Yeah.
2 to 3 minutes longs of like their seasons. Because I'll probably never watch them, but I think it's interesting enough for like short form
Yeah.
film. Um, so I thought that was, I think it's, a genius idea more so than Disney, who is also doing verts, which
Yeah.
I don't think is going to work unless they fully focus on like kids as like the demographic. And then Peacock has also said that they're, going to do something similar. And then the other thing that that came out this week that Adweek reported on is that Netflix's Running Point season 2, which is the Kate Hudson basketball comedy, is integrating 6 brands directly into the show:
Mhm.
State Farm, DoorDash, Lexus, Ally Bank, Sephora, and Google Search. Um, and I thought it was like an interesting way to deal with the problem that all these streamers have, which is how do we get sponsorships and get, advertisers without having to do commercials. Cause like
Yeah.
people are already so pissed off that you're trying to add commercials to Netflix context. So I thought that this was like a good way to like, formalize something that's already happening anyway, which is like getting, brands inside of shows. It reminds me of like the Truman Show when like she's
Mhm.
talking about, and this is the chocolate, that we're having as a family or whatever, right? I haven't watched them, but
Mhm.
I'm curious to see how it would actually work. Particularly when you think about shows like Stranger Things, where it's like, do you go back to like the 80s and create, the brand's alignment there? Or like Bridgerton, which is like, well, we didn't really have, these these types of products back then, right? And
Yeah.
those are like their highest watch shows, right?
Well, on the first one, it makes me think of Quibi,
Yeah.
which was that like late great RIP app that was basically doing
Uh-huh.
that thing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a mixture. My first thought is that, and also from the standpoint of it like failed spectacularly.
Hmm.
And I think it's a mixture of 2 things. I think it was early. I
Hmm.
think it was still like we hadn't kind of we knew short form was a thing, but we hadn't adopted it to the level that we've
Yeah.
adopted it now. And then in addition to that, it doesn't have the network effects that Netflix or a Disney Plus or anything like that. My thing would be for Netflix, I want them absolutely to hire the fan edits.
Hmm.
Some of the best video editors I've ever seen in my life are just normies at home doing
Hmm.
fan edits. And
For the
so
love of the game
for
and
the
the
love
love
of
of
the
the
game.
show.
Oh, yeah, like, they
Yeah.
should 100% hire them. For
Yep.
Marvel, and I'm gonna talk directly to the camera because I need them to do this, dear Marvel and Disney Plus,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do this, I need you to get Wong and the girl, I can't remember her name, from She-Hulk, or the guy from Ant-Man. I want shorts that basically give me cliff notes for every single movie and Marvel TV show so that whenever I have a new movie coming up, so like Endgame, is being rebrought into theaters, and it's going to have new clips that will lead directly into Doomsday. Fantastic. But a lot of us have watched all the movies, but we haven't watched everything pre Endgame since it actually came out. And I do not have a photographic memory. So, what would be super cool is instead of having to watch all 1 million shows and movies, if I could go and watch a short that basically gives me the cliff notes, spoilers, all the things, that basically, here's what you need to know about this movie as we think about the future of Marvel. Next, next, next. Cool? You like Daredevil? Here's everything you need to know about this show and what it has to do with that. Basically, make it very clear. You can even say spoilers section. I don't care. But the fact that that has not been created yet boggles my mind. Please make it. Please use it exactly for that use case, because there are Marvel fans who will, like, anytime a new show comes out, anytime a new Marvel movie comes out, you'll see online, what movies do I need to watch in order before I do this? What do I need to know?
Mhm,
That is a prime opportunity for you to specifically do that. Have those characters, because that's their whole thing. Like, it's literally within their character to do that.
mhm.
Create it and then go through the process. Please, I'm begging. It makes
I feel
too
like
much
that's
sense
another
for you not to do
billion-dollar
it.
idea right there.
Makes too much sense. I don't know why it exists. Dear Marvel, take this free idea. It is yours. Please do
Uh-huh.
it. Please do it. I'm begging. It makes too much sense.
Mhm. Yeah. The one thing also about Quibi is if you'll remember, it was meant to be original content,
Yeah, yeah,
right? These all these apps, so the Disney, Peacock, and Netflix are all gonna use existing
yeah,
content, to cut down and just have,
yeah,
create their own, like, TikToks.
yeah.
So I do wonder how far away we are from actually having, like, original content.
But they do those
Um
now on TikTok. It's those, like, really poorly acted romance things, and they're like, it's a 10-minute clip, and then you go to the next 10-minute
Mm.
clip, and
Mhm,
so those
mhm, mhm.
already kind of exist on
Yeah.
TikTok. They're mainly like,
I've seen the, like, YouTube videos of, like, is it
yeah,
InStyle or something that
yeah,
has, like, The Office style type,
yes, yeah,
show going on?
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, it is certainly existing, but, yeah, I wonder, like, how long it'll take for, these things. I mean, the thing that you're talking about just reminds me of, so there like, now each of the, like, the larger Netflix shows have their own, like, podcast,
yep,
where it's like they're interviewing the characters and everything. I saw the Bridgerton one come up, and I was like, "That's really like, yes, of course you're gonna do that."
yeah,
Like to interview like everybody in the show and just create your own content on top of
mhm,
the original content. One thing that I was thinking about is there's like rumors that Netflix is gonna buy like a studio here in LA. And I'm like, okay, so now if they're, buying these studios, creating their own like production house for like all these things, all the worlds that they now like have, right? Like we did an episode here where or a segment here where we talked about they have 10 worlds that are essentially like Netflix, owned,
mhm,
right? You have Stranger Things, Bridgerton, Avatar, and all those, right? Um what can you do to create more content within those same worlds in order to continue the world building and keep your fans coming back to your
yep,
platform versus all the rest of them, right?
yeah,
And so like it just makes so much sense for like Netflix to do that and then eventually, have their own sort of like, Disneyland or Universal because
yep,
like they have these worlds that like exist within, Netflix. Because, people want more in-person,
mhm.
events and like, things that they can do, especially when you can meet other fans, right?
Number 2 is the product placement. If you look at the product placement and, like, the system in general, that's an Adam Sandler special. Like, so the
Mhm,
way that he structured it, he basically hires all of his friends. He has product placement for everything. So usually by the time the movie is made, it's already basically pretty much funded. So if you think about, like, from a profit perspective, Adam Sandler has already used the product placement model to, like, nail that sponsorship. And so the fact that Netflix was already working with him on his deal means that they already know how to work that out. So
mhm.
I think the main thing is that, like you said, as long as it's not like, hey, drink some Ovaltine, if it's not like hyper
Yeah.
weird
Mm,
and performative, I think it's going to be fine.
mhm.
Um,
I mean, we
but
saw
like
it
that
with the
system's been
F1
around.
movie, right? Where
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
the car itself
hmm,
had the logos of companies that paid to be,
yeah,
featured in the movie. The
yeah,
main one being Expensify,
yeah,
and then Ninja, right? I remember
yeah,
very clearly seeing when they're making a smoothie and they have the Ninja blender, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay, that's very clearly like product
yeah,
placement.
yeah,
And we've had it also with Marvel Studios, obviously, like the cars that get chosen to be in the film, right?
yeah,
James Bond, same thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
Well,
I
even
think it
Omega, like the watch,
Mhm.
like
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Bond
yeah,
has a
yeah, yeah.
massive Omega
Mhm.
deal. Yeah,
Mhm,
that's on
mhm.
purpose.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We've seen it so much in, like, movies, so the fact that it's, like, barely, making its way
Yeah,
down into TV, it took long enough.
yeah,
But it is interesting that they chose basketball or, a sports show, which, because sports so much of, like, sports content has, like, ads, like, on everything. So a couple lessons here. Clips are here to stay, folks. If you haven't figured out how to create video content, short form video content in some way for whatever it is that you're trying to do, podcasts or blogs, newsletters, all that, if you haven't found a way to do that, start trying to figure that out now, testing out like that messaging, like, what is it that you're actually putting out there? Going back to competency porn, like that sort of video is doing super well right now because people want to hear you talk about things that you actually know about. We talked about this last week, and I think a huge reason why clipping is becoming more and more of a thing is because people really hate ads. And they hate that with like podcasts, increasingly you get, that ad, read in the middle, right? So by, using clips, people are just like, well, I'm just gonna skip all that, just get to like the highlight reel of everything that they want me to, learn about it and just do that. So here we have Netflix figuring out a way to put products in front of you in a way that isn't as obvious. And I think this should be one of the things maybe we accept a little bit more so that we get more of this instead of ad reads. But I feel like people are going to be up in arms about ads in front of their faces regardless.
yeah.
But maybe this is a happy medium of like if you can get that to help fund, your TV show or your movie or whatever, like Adam Sandler. Other thing for you to think about there is like what can you as like a brand do to like maybe, work with maybe not Netflix. I don't know how, but like figure out a way to become a brand sponsor for like, big TV shows like this to get views in a more organic way, I guess.